Good morning. My name is Falan Holgan, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about energy utilization, specifically blood glucose uptake. Blood glucose uptake is a very important thing to consider when participating in physical activity because as the intensity of physical activity increases, so does the necessity for muscle glycogen. So after we eat, there's glucose in our blood. We need to use that glucose, so it has to move from the blood into individual muscle cells. And the way this happens is the hormone insulin used to regulate blood sugar is released by the pancreas to help maintain the blood glucose, and the glucose enters muscle cells by coming in contact with a transport protein called glucose transport protein 4. That's a pretty long name, so we'll just call it GLUT4. That's the other name for it. And then when our muscles need glucose, the number of GLUT4 proteins on the cell membrane increases. And it increases because insulin stimulates an increase of that protein. And once the glucose enters a muscle fiber, it can be stored as muscle glycogen or used up right away. It all depends on what you decide to do. If you sit down, it'll be stored as fat, and if you are active, it'll be used up. There are times when this process isn't carried out properly. Sometimes there are people who have the inability to carry out the glycogen utilization, like people with diabetes mellitus, which is a condition in which there is an insufficient amount of insulin produced by the pancreas. And this one is referred to as type 1 diabetes. And a person with type 1 diabetes doesn't have control over their metabolism. The type 1 diabetic has to closely regulate blood glucose concentration through diet and exercise. And if the physical activity becomes too intense, then hypoglycemia and insulin shock can occur, and we don't want that to happen. But insulin shock is an acute hypoglycemia from excessive insulin. And the symptoms of insulin shock include sweating, trembling, dizziness, and if not treated, convulsions and coma. But then we have type 2 diabetes, and that's when the insulin doesn't promote the uptake of glucose by cells. Type 2 diabetes happens when the body becomes insulin resistant. This usually occurs later on in life after years of poorly maintained blood sugar and very little physical activity to help that excess sugar be used up in the blood. So a type 2 diabetic can eliminate the need for exogenous insulin, which are like oral medications they take to use to stimulate insulin secretion or shots, by being physically active and limiting their consumption of sugars. But the key is you want to take some preventative measures and try to maintain your blood glucose so it doesn't have to get to that point. And that is pretty much all there is to this thing. It's pretty simple and easy. Diabetes type 1, you can be born with it. And type 2 can be brought on by bad eating habits, bad dietary habits.
The body uses 3 substrates to provide energy to the cells. They are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. It's crucial to understand how the body uses these substrates to enhance physical activity and exercise.
Skeletal muscle fibers develop from embryonic myotubes, which are formed from the fusion of numerous myoblasts. The myotubes form into mature muscle fibers because of the influence of growth-promoting factors such as IGFs and testosterone. IGFs are proteins with high sequence similarity to insulin. As fibers develop, myosin and actin, also known as thick and thin filaments, are arranged in a repeating unit called a sarcomere. The interaction of myosin and actin is responsible for muscle contraction. Since skeletal muscle fibers are a heterogeneous group, they have a distinct contractile and metabolic characteristics. Because of the different fiber types in skeletal muscles, the muscle is able to perform distinct functions and respond in different ways during contraction. Regularly performed endurance exercise induces major adaptations in skeletal muscle. These include increases in the mitochondrial content and respiratory capacity of the muscle fibers. As a consequence of the increase in mitochondria, exercise of the same intensity results in a disturbance in homeostasis that is similar in trained and in untrained muscles. The major metabolic consequences of the adaptations of muscle to endurance exercise are a slower utilization of muscle glycogen and blood glucose, a greater reliance on fat oxidation, and less lactate production during exercise of a given intensity. These adaptations play an important role in the large increase in the ability to perform prolonged strenuous exercise that occurs in response to endurance and exercise training. Resistance exercise training causes muscle fiber hypertrophy, which is the increase in the size of the muscle. There are many factors that affect strength development. Following resistance training programs, muscular strength and power is increased. Muscular strength is important for maintaining normal functional ability. While we know that resistance training is a valuable tool for muscle development, there is still much to be learned about how resistance training can affect different individuals, the amount of training that should be done, and how resistance training can help treat diseases.
At rest in the post-absorptive state, the tissues of the body primarily rely on fat and carbohydrate and very little on protein. Jessica, wake up! Have you had your hour of physical activity yet?
No.
Dr. Scott Gordon would kill you.
I know. I need to figure out how to burn fat, though. I don't know how.
Oh, I just learned about substrates while you exercise. I can help you out. Let's hit the gym, but first I need a snack.
If we eat carbohydrates, it will increase glucose and enhance our workout performance.
But this might increase insulin concentration in our blood, which will reduce our use of fat.
That's true. That's why diet is so important. I can alter my substrate utilization with my diet changes. Let's go to the gym.
Okay, if we want to burn fat, we should be careful to stay below the crossover point.
What are you talking about?
Okay, the crossover point is a point where the body receives more of its energy from carbohydrates than fat. The more intense the workout, the more likely you are to be burning carbohydrates instead of fat. So, if we stay below the crossover point, we will stick to burning fat. So, we need to exercise for a long time at a low intensity.
But at higher intensity, more total fat as a fuel source, even though the total percentage of fat may be less than that which occurs at a lower intensity.
That's a good point.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Chris, and me and my group, we did a section on blood glucose and carbohydrates and all that good stuff, how they help improve performance during exercise. So my section was on how during like long duration exercises like triathlons, marathons, and all that, pretty much exercises that last 3 to 4 hours, how blood glucose and muscle glycogen, they are used by your body at the same time to produce energy. But muscle glycogen tends to reduce faster than blood glucose, so then when muscle glycogen depletes, then all you're using is blood glucose for all the energy. So there's a time and there's a point where you've used up all your muscle glycogen, and now all you're using is blood. Oh, it's a playground. Now you're using is blood glucose. So when there comes a time where you use all your blood glucose after that, then you may become hypoglycemic, which leads to fatigue and decreased performance, and it can lead to other serious medical conditions. So you don't want to be hypoglycemic. So don't even know if I'm saying that word right, hypoglycemic or hypoglycemic. Anyways, so yeah, so you don't want to do that. And so to help maintain blood glucose, you need to have carbohydrates. You need to consume continuously carbohydrates. So there's a recommended feeding of carbohydrates, which is 1 to 5 grams per kilogram of body mass. So say for example, if you weigh, I don't know, so I weigh 145 pounds, right? So 1 to 5 kilograms, 1 to 5 grams per kilogram, so that's about 65, maybe, about 65 kilograms that I weigh. So if I weigh 65 kilograms, I need to consume 65 to about 300 grams of carbohydrates, which is from 1 to 4 hours before your workout. So I've tried that, and earlier I had a run. So my idea for this project, for my section at least, was to make 2 runs, right? 2 runs, 2 2-mile runs, 1 2-mile run. Consume little carbohydrates. And so I had a salad, a power kale and Caesar salad from Panera Bread, which has about 11 grams of carbohydrates. So that's like nothing. And then this time I had a steak and white cheddar panini from Panera Bread, which has over 100 grams of carbohydrates. So we'll see the difference. I have the performance for my previous run, and then I'm gonna record the performance for this run, and I'm gonna post all the details. So we'll see the difference. And it's only been like 3 days after, so we'll see the difference. And the book talks about also how there are certain drinks that help maintain blood glucose, like energy drinks, have glucose, sucrose, and other glycogen polymer solutions. So energy drinks are good to drink while you're working out because they help maintain your blood glucose, which reduces your fatigue and improves performance. So you want to do that. And yeah, so pretty much exercise scientists and all coaches and all that, they all find ways to improve performance by help maintaining blood glucose in their athletes. So yeah, I'm about to run, and this video is kind of long already. Okay.